Hi, 12th day of 30 days reading challenge. Today I am reading Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, Part 3, page 195. Don't worry yourself, mother, said Dunya, taking off her hat and cape. God sent this gentleman to our aid. Though he has come from a drinking party, we can depend on him, I assure you, and all that he has done for Rhodia. Ah, Dunya, goodness knows whether he will come. How could I bring myself to leave Rhodia? And how different I had fancied our meeting. How sullen he was, as though not pleased to see us. Tears came into her eyes. No, it is not that, mother. You didn't see were you were crying all the time. He is quite unhinged by serious illness. That's the reason. Ah, that illness. What will happen? What will happen? And how he talked to you, Dunya, said the mother, looking timidly at her daughter, trying to read her thoughts, and already half consoled by Dunya's standing up for her brother, which meant that she had already forgiven him. I am sure he will think better of it tomorrow, she added, probing her further. And I am sure that he will say the same tomorrow about it. Advotya Romanava said finally. And of course, there was no beyond beyond it, for this was a point which Brigadier Alexandrovna was afraid to discuss. Dunya went up and kissed her mother. The latter formally embraced her without speaking. Then she sat down to wait anxiously for Rasamohan return, timidly watching her daughter, who walked up and down the room with her arms folded, lost in thoughts. This walking up and down when she was thinking was a habit of Avoditya Romanava, and the mother was afraid to break in on her daughter's mood at such moments. Rajamohan, of course, was ridiculous in his sudden drunken infatuation of Avoditya Romanava. Yet, apart from his eccentric condition, many people would have thought it justified if they had seen Avdotya Romanova, especially at that moment when she was walking to and fro with folded arms, pensive and melancholy. Avdotya Romanova was remarkably good looking. She was tall, striking, well proportioned, strong, and self reliant. The latter quality was apparent in every gesture, though it did not in the least detract from the grace and softness of her movement. In face, she resembled her brother, but she might be described as really beautiful. Her hair was dark blonde, a little lighter than her brother's. There was a proud light in her almost black eyes, and yet at times a look of extraordinary kindness. She was pale, but it was a healthy pallor. Her face was radiant in freshness and vigor. Her mouth was rather small. The full red upper lip projected a little, as did her chin. It was the only irregularity in her beautiful face, but it gave a peculiarly individual and almost haughty expression. Her face was always more serious and thoughtful than Guy. But how well smiles, how well youthful, light-hearted, irresponsible. Laughter suited her face. It was natural enough that a warm, open simple-hearted, honest giant like Raja Mohan, who had never seen anyone like her, was not quite sober at that time, should lose his head immediately. Besides, as chance would have it, he saw Dunya for the first time, transfigured by her love for her brother and her joy at meeting him. Afterward, he saw her lower lip quiver with indignations at her brother's insolent, cruel, and grateful words, and his fate was sealed. He had spoken the truth. However, when he blurted out in his drunken talk on stage that Praxovia Pavlovna, Raskolnikov's eccentric landlady, would be jealous of Pulcheria's Alexandrovna, as well as of Avdotia Romanova on his account. Although Pulcheria Alexandrovna was 43, her face was still retained traces of her former beauty. She looked much younger than her age. Indeed, which is almost always the case with women who retain serenity of spirit, sensitiveness, and pure sincere warmth of heart to old age. We may add in parenthesis that to preserve all this is the on, to preserve all this is the only means of retaining beauty to old age. Her head began her head had begun to grow grey and thin. There had long been little crow's foot wrinkles around her eyes. Her cheeks were hollow and shrunken from anxiety and grief, and yet it was handsome face. She was Dunya over again, 20 years older, but without projecting underlip. Plucheria Alexandrovna was emotional, but not sentimental, timid and yielding, but only to a certain point. She could give way and accept a great deal even of what was contrary to her convictions. But there was a certain barrier fixed by honesty, principles, and deepest convictions, which nothing would induce her to cross. Exactly 20 minutes after Rosamohin's departure, there came two subdued but hurried knocks at the door. He had come back. I won't come in. I haven't time. He hastened to say when the door was opened. He sleeps like a top soundly, quietly, and God grant he may sleep 10 hours. Nasya with him. I told her not to leave till I came. Now I am fetching Zosima. He will report to you, and you would better turn in. I can see you are too tired to do anything. And he ran off down the corridor. What a very competent and devoted young man, cried Luceria Alexandrovna, exceedingly delighted. He seems a splendid person, Avonia replied, with some warmth, resuming her walk up and down the room. It was nearly an hour later when they heard footsteps in the corridor and another knock at the door. Both women waited this time completely, relying on Razumov's promise. He actually had succeeded in bringing Josimov. Josimov had agreed at once to desert the drinking party to go to Raskolnikov's, but he came reluctantly and with the greatest suspicions to see the ladies, mistreating Razumovin in exaggerated conditions. But this vanity was at once reassured and flattered. He saw that they were really expecting him as an oracle. He stayed just 10 minutes and succeeded in completely convincing and confronting Pulcheria Alexandrovna. He spoke with marked sympathy, but with the reserve and extreme seriousness of a young doctor at an important consultation. He did not utter a word on any other subject and did not display the slightest desire to enter into more personal relation with the two ladies. Remark, Remarking at his first entrance the dazzling beauty of Avodhya Romanova, he endeavored not to notice her at all during his visit and addressed him solely to Pulcheria Alexandrovna. All this gave him extraordinary inward satisfaction. He declared that he thought the invalid at this moment going on a very satisfactory. According to this observation, the according to his observations, the patient's illness was due to partially to his unfortunate material surroundings during the last few months, but it had partly also a moral origin, was, so to speak, the product of several material and moral influence, anxieties, apprehensions, trouble, certain ideas, and so on. Noticing stealthily that Avodia Romanova was following his words with close attention, Zosimov allowed himself to enlarge on this theme, on Pulcheria Alexandrova, and anxiously and timidly inquiring as to some suspicion of insanity. He replied with a composed and candid smile that his word had been exaggerated, that certainly the patient had some fixed ideas, something approaching a monomania. He, Josimov, was now particularly studying this interesting branch of medicine, but that it must be recollected that until today the patient had been in delirium, and that no doubt the presence of his family would have a favorable effect on his recovery and distract his mind, if only of fresh shocks can be avoided. He added significantly, then he got up, take leave with an impressive and affable bow, while blessing, warm gratitude and entreaties were showered upon him, and Patricia Romanova responded initially offered her hand to him. He went out exceedingly pleased with his visit, and still more so with himself. We walk tomorrow, go to bed at once, Razumohin said in conclusion, following Josimov's out. I will be with you tomorrow morning, as early as possible with my report. That's a fetching little Avodya Romanova, remarked Josimov, almost licking his lips, as they both came into the street. Fetching, you said, fetching, roared Razumohin, and he flew at Josimov and seized him by the throat. If you ever dare, do you understand? Do you understand? He shouted, shaking him by the collar and squeezing him against the wall. Do you hear? Let me go, you drunken devil, said Joseph, struggling, and when he had let him go, he stared at him and went off into a guffaw. Razumohin stood facing him in gloomy and earnest reflection. Of course, I am an ass, he observed, somber and storm but still you are anything. No, brother, no, brother, not at all such another. I am not dreaming of any folly. They walked along in silence, and only when they were close to Raskolnikov lodging, Razumohin broke the silence in considerable anxiety. Listen, he said, you are a first-rate fellow, but among your other feelings. You are a loose fish, and that I know, and a dirty one too. You are feeble, nervous fish, and a mass of wings. You are getting fat and lazy and can't deny yourself anything. And I call that dirty because it leads one straight into dirt. You have let yourself get to slack that I don't know how it you have let yourself to get so slack that I don't know how it is you are still a god, even a devoted doctor. You, a doctor, sleep on a feather bed and get up at night to your patients. In another 3 or 4 years, you won't get up for your patients. But hang it all, that's not the point. You are going to spend tonight in the landlady's flat here. Hard work I have had to persuade her, and I will be in the kitchen. So here's a chance for you to get to know her better. It's not as you think. There's not a trace of anything of the sort, brother. But I don't think. Here you have modesty, brother, silence, bashfulness, and and savage virtue. And yet she is sighing and melting like wax, simply melting. Save me from her by all that unholy. She is most possessive. I will repay you. I will do anything. Josimov laughed more violently than well. You are smitten. What am I to do with her? I won't be much trouble, I assure you. Talk any rot you like to her, as long as you sit by her and talk. You are a doctor too, time. Try curing her of something. I swear you won't regret it. She has a piano, and you know I am strum a little. I strum a little. I have a song there, a genuine Russian one. I shed hot tears. She likes the genuine articles, and well, it all began with that song. Now, you are a regular performer, a mind trick, and Rubinstein. I assure you, you won't regret it. But have you made her some promise, something signed, a promise of marriage, perhaps? Nothing, nothing, absolutely nothing of the kind. Besides, she is not that sort at all. Tragic to cried that. Well then, drop her. But I can't drop her like that. Why can't you? Well, I can't tell all about it. There's an element of attraction here. Then why have you fascinated her? I haven't fascinated her. Perhaps I was fascinated myself in my folly. But she won't care a straw whether it's you or I, so long as somebody sits beside her side. I can't explain the position better. Look here, you are good at mathematics and working at it now. Been teaching her the integral calculus upon myself. I am not joking. I am in earnest. It will be just the same to her. She will gaze at you and sigh for a whole year together. I talked to her once for 2 days at a time about a Persian house of lords. For one must talk to someone. She just sighed and burst cried. And you must not talk of her. She is bashful and hysterics. But just let her see you can't tear yourself away. That's enough. It's fearfully comfortable. You are quite at home. You can read, sit, lie about, write. You may even venture on a kiss if you are here. But what do I want with her?